Hello friends. It's safe to say that Jeremy Corbyn, Labour's current leader, hasn't had the easiest job lately. In the wake of the Brexit referendum, he's faced a full-blown coup attempt by a large group of his own MPs, beginning with a string of resignations from his cabinet, a vote of no confidence in his leadership, attempts to prevent him from standing in the upcoming leadership elections, and now further opposition in the form of Owen Smith, the Labour MP standing against him. In the face of such opposition, you might be left wondering if it's just sheer stubbornness that's keeping Jeremy Corbyn from standing down as Labour leader. After all, so many of his own MPs seem hell-bent on driving him from his current position. But while stubbornness is certainly playing a part in why he's refusing to back down, I would argue that there's a further, deeper factor behind his stance, one that explains both his defiance in the face of his MPs as well as his MPs' desire to see him gone. To explain it, we need to take a look at the structure of the Labour Party itself and the way in which it elects both its MPs and its leaders. Though recent governments have moved away from its socialist origins, the Labour Party structure very much retained its roots in a bottom-up organisation that attempts to create as much engagement from its membership as possible. The subject of how Labour organises itself would probably make for an interesting video in and of its own right, especially if you're a nerd for political structures like me, but in the interest of time, let me summarise it with some graphics. Of the lower tiers of Labour structure, the part that's most relevant to this topic would be the Constituency Labour Party, or CLP. Made up of the various branches of a constituency, the CLP has the power to select the candidates that will run for Parliament in their region, which is to say, if Labour wins the seat in a constituency, the candidate chosen by the CLP is the one that's off to Westminster. Moreover, if a candidate selected by the CLP should lose favour with them, then they are in serious trouble. Just because they were chosen as a candidate last election doesn't mean that a CLP won't shove them aside for a more favourable candidate when they get the chance. It's a means of ensuring accountability amongst Labour MPs, a safety net to make sure that elected officials continue to act in the interests of those who elected them. Now, at this point, it's very important to point out that the majority of CLPs in the UK are extremely pro-Corbyn. To date, 84% of the CLPs have come out in favour of Jeremy Corbyn, a massive boost in support since he was first elected in 2015. The message that's being sent is clear, and this helps to explain why many MPs are so intent on removing Corbyn as soon as possible. There is a sword of Damocles hanging over the rebel MPs' heads, if you'll forgive the metaphor, a time limit on whether or not they'll have a job in the next few years. If they cannot oust Corbyn now, come the next general election, the CLPs are likely to drop them in favour of candidates who do support their choice of leader for the party. This being politics, however, it's naturally not as clear-cut as that. Higher tiers of Labour structure, specifically the National Executive Committee or NEC, have the power to veto any candidate choices made by the CLPs. Doing so would be an extremely dangerous prospect, however, as it would undermine the structure on which the Labour Party is built. Blocking decisions made by lower tiers of the party structure would be akin to kicking out keystones from which the NEC and the party as a whole derives its authority. Such a move would almost certainly be denounced as a cynical means for a political elite to silence the wishes of those they are supposed to serve. Since the beginning of this attempted coup, the MPs seeking to remove Corbyn have been desperate to avoid an open contest against him. Yet by remaining stoic in the face of their attempts to drive him out, Corbyn has forced their hand. Their wish to avoid this seems justified when you consider how far behind Owen Smith is in terms of popular support. It would be a mistake to claim that the contest is already over, however. The pro-Corbyn faction of this Labour civil war had a serious victory snatched away from them when they won a lawsuit demanding that the 130,000 recent additions to the party's ranks be allowed to vote in the leadership contest, only to then have this decision overturned when the NEC appealed it. Or to put it another way, the NEC, which proclaims to represent the membership of Labour, is effectively silencing that very same membership. What we're witnessing through all this increasingly bitter infighting is the struggle between the old guard of careerist politicians and a new wave of the Labour Party. Corbyn inherited his current batch of MPs from Ed Miliband in the previous general election, and as the outsider candidate of the leadership race that followed his predecessor's resignation, they've never fully accepted him. The Brexit result no doubt seemed like an opportune moment to replace Corbyn with a more establishment figurehead, which helps to explain why so many are keen to lay the blame for the result at Corbyn's feet, as well as all the talk of him being unelectable. Corbyn's outright refusal to back down in the face of this pressure, however, has put those rebel MPs in a very dangerous position. It seems increasingly clear that the Labour Party membership wants the current leader to remain in place, leaving us in the strange situation of Labour MPs actively campaigning against its supporters. Their talk of wishing to save the Labour Party rings ever more hollow as it becomes apparent that the Labour Party itself doesn't want to be saved. A political party is not its leadership after all, nor is it just its MPs. It's the people who support and vote for it, join its ranks and help its leadership to take positions of power. I can't help but worry that this is something that many of Labour's leaders have forgotten. If governments are supposed to be beholden to their people after all, then surely Labour's leaders should in turn be beholden to their membership. Thank you for watching, friends. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to share it with others or share your thoughts below. If you did not, the dislike button is of course available as well.